Welcome to the book of Joshua. Over the next few minutes, I hope to unpack for you Joshua, who he was, what he was, and why this is so critical for you and for me and for our faith. Sandwiched in between a collection of books is this transition piece. The first 5 books of the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, they tell a story of the life in the nation of Israel before inheriting what had become known as the Promised Land. You see, going all the way back to a conversation that God had with Abram, there was a covenant that God made with Abram. In this covenant conversation, God asked Abraham to leave his family and to go to the place that God was providing. In this conversation, there was a commitment from God and for Abraham that God would bless him with nations, that God would bless him with ancestors, and that God would bless him with blessings, that they would be blessed as a nation and that they would be a blessing to other nations. This story is a story about uncommon strength, how God would use Joshua to realize this covenant come true. So who is Joshua? Joshua was a lot of things and to a lot of different people. Thinking about adjectives to describe characteristics of Joshua, it's easier for me to think about words like warrior, loyal, servant, faithful. But perhaps the most obvious is the word courageous or strong. Joshua was an incredible man of strength, and he wasn't just a man of his own strengths. He was a man that was led by the strength of God. In the story, the very end of the life of a man named Moses, Moses had led the nation of Israel out of over 400 years of captivity at the hands of the Egyptians. And in a 40-year span, he had prepared the people, leading them up into the point of the Promised Land. But Moses wasn't going to be the one that God would use as a catalyst to take people into the land. In a conversation recorded at the very, very end of Moses' life, we begin to see this attribute of strength introduced. Deuteronomy chapter 31, specifically beginning in verse 19, which says, "Now therefore, write this song and teach it to the people of Israel. Put it in their mouths, so that this song may be a witness for me against the people of Israel. For when I have brought them into the land, flowing with milk and honey, which I swore to give their fathers, and they have eaten and are full and grown fat, they will turn to other gods and serve them, that despise me and break my covenant. And when many evils and troubles have come upon them, this song shall confront them as a witness, for it will live unforgotten in the mouths of their offspring. For I know that they are inclined to do even today, before I have brought them into the land that I swore to give them." So Moses wrote this song the same day and taught it to the people of the land. And the Lord commissioned Joshua, the son of Nun, and said, "Be strong and courageous, for you shall bring the people of Israel into the land that I swore to give them, and I will be with you." Joshua's uncommon strength allowed him and one other to serve as spies in the Promised Land. And what they saw amongst their peers was what appeared to be odds that were greater than they could overcome. And yet the Lord gave inside of Joshua an uncommon strength, a courage to stand up and say, "We can do this. We can overtake the land." It would be several years later that the Lord would fulfill this promise through Joshua. As Moses passes away and Joshua takes on the mantle of leadership, specifically leading the nation of Israel, the full circle journey continues. Joshua is going to lead the people out of the wilderness and into the land. In this story, it is broken into 3 different distinct parts. You see, the first part, or the first third of Joshua, is all about the process of entering the land. And in the middle, sandwiched between the bookends, is a story of conquering the land. And on the back end, it's all about establishing the land that God had promised to them. This is a unique book with so many didactic moments where we can not only understand the history and the culture and the context, but where we can lean in and learn from the life of Joshua, specifically the relationship that he kept with the Lord and how God used him to lead a nation for almost 30 years. When Joshua left Egypt, he was 40 years old. Now remember, being born in Egypt, he had only ever known life as a slave. At 40 years old, fleeing the land of Egypt and the oppression to the Egyptians, he, along with Moses and over 1 million Israelites, are going to wander the desert, and they're going to do so for 40 years. Quick math, Joshua is 80 years old when he takes the mantle of leadership and begins to lead the people into the promised land. And for the next 30 years, he's going to lead at a high level. He dies at 110 years old. And in that 30-year span, the influence of his life and leadership is unlike anything else. As we read this story about Joshua, we're going to learn not only the kind of person he was, but the way that the Lord moved through his life and his leadership and what he did in fulfilling his promise that he made through Abram and the Abrahamic covenant so many years before. As we think about all the courageous moments, it's fitting to understand that at the onset of Joshua's leadership, the Lord commissions him not once, not twice, but 3 times immediately. In the first 9 verses, we hear and we see and we can feel 3 different times where the Lord says to Joshua, be strong, be courageous, be very strong and courageous. There's so much didactic learning that goes on, these moments where we can capture them for ourselves and we can learn to apply these lessons. We can learn to apply the kind of strength and courage that Joshua had and how we live our lives. I'd love to invite you to follow along each and every week and trust the Lord with what he might want to do in you and through you as we continue in our journey through the book of Joshua together.